Was there anything about the experiences you had at either Brex or SoFi that taught you lessons that you're applying to sort of the financial innovation that you're really pushing today at Figure?
Yeah, I think there's lots. I mean, I think the highest level is that in order to innovate in fintech, and I would put blockchain broadly in the category of fintech. There's probably people who would say fintech is a subsidiary of blockchain, but regardless, I think in order to be successful in this space, you need to get technology right, you need to get finance right, and you also need to get regulatory right. And I think that really if you kind of boil down all my experiences at SoFi and Brex, and oftentimes you learn the most from things that don't go your way. I think the lessons are around the intersection of those three is what it takes to innovate in this space.
And one of the things you touched on that I think has implications for those different things that you need to get right is what I would call trust and transparency. And so maybe how do you think about building trust as you're building what I would call this sort of foundation to be able to enable that from the different constituencies you just described?
Trust is something that is earned in drips and you can lose it by the bucketful, right? So I think the way that you build trust, and it's often tied to, in financial services, it's tied to brand as well, is kind of getting those customer experiences right, taking things like incidents very seriously, security, compliance. And you, like I said, you kind of earn this over time. And I think also one of the things that I've focused on in all the roles has been partnerships. And partnerships allow you to attach yourself to other brands. And in particular, in financial services, I think that's something that we do really well at Figure, and we also did really well at Brex. When we started Brex, one of the first partnerships we had was with First Republic Bank, which RIP, but had a great brand at that time. And that was a really big validator for a lot of people that were thinking about, can I trust this company? And I look at Figure and, we have 200 partners, including 50% of the top 20 independent mortgage banks, tons of regulated banks and credit unions that partner with us. And I think we're AAA securitization from S&P and Moody's. And so we have a lot of these validating factors that ultimately bring trust to our brand. Of course, there's some irony in this discussion because the whole point of blockchain and what we do is to displace trust with truth, but that's more about the operations of the business. The reality is, and I think this is, something we can get into, but in the crypto and blockchain space, you don't want to be too religious to sacrifice the fact that, you ultimately need customers. And so customers, even if your product doesn't require them to trust you, it doesn't mean that they still don't need to trust you in order to use your product.